Good evening and welcome to CREDO Live. We are talking tonight with Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib from Michigan's 13th District and Thaís Marques from CREDO Action, and we're talking about impeachment. Congresswoman, let's start with you. You just were on the House floor. You introduced a resolution. What does that mean regarding impeachment?
You know, for many folks that don't kind of understand like the institution and how it works, you know, today is a great example of learning really how to create a transparent process for everybody to be involved in. And so the resolution is that first step. It says, look, let's inquire whether or not the President of the United States committed impeachable offenses. It is, you know, directing the Judiciary Committee to consider taking this up and actually beginning the investigation into some of those actions that many of us have been very concerned about, especially when it comes to not upholding the emoluments clause within the United States Constitution that requires every sitting president to divest in their foreign and domestic businesses. This is the first time in the history of the United States that a president has not done so. And for many of us, and including myself in my district, we're very concerned about the conflict of interest, this upgraded pay-to-play kind of program that we've already seen with some of his actions. And for me at this point, you know, this resolution means let's allow a hearing, let's allow an investigation into this, especially because these are allegations that are very serious and I think jeopardize our core democratic values.
So can you explain a little bit more about the emollient? How do you say that?
Emoluments. It took me a while too.
Emoluments
yeah,
clause.
It is an emoluments clause. And I want folks to know, you know, this was there way before many of us ever existed. And, you know, this basically prevents corruption. It says, look, when you take the oath of office, when you become president of the United States, which is right now the most powerful position in the world, that you are there in the best interest of the American people, that you don't want to be conflicted. It also really protects us from influence from foreign government. So when you are somebody that has assets and businesses, foreign and domestic, you have to divest. You have to separate yourself away from that because now you've taken, you know, now you're in public service. You have to represent this whole country. And you want to be able to do that in a way that the priority is the American people. That's the best interest. And again, this, in many ways, people call it the emoluments clause, but actually it's called the anti-corruption clauses. It is the specific clauses that prevent corruption in our democracy.
Which is way easier to say too. So the anti-corruption clause,
yes.
Which is the one that Jimmy Carter sold his peanut farm for,
yes.
right? And it's
I'm so glad you know that. And I tell people every president has done it.
Yeah.
It's hard, but that's
except for this president.
That's right.
I mean, just go through a little bit. I mean, or I can say like.
Yeah.
If you have a business and you're the sitting president and somebody, I mean, especially with Donald Trump, someone can just book a bunch of rooms at his hotels or his properties.
And that's exactly what's happening. So I call it the upgraded version of pay to play because you have, for instance, the Saudi Arabian government. They are, you know, in the same week that they are lobbying the United States government, the federal government, the Trump administration, they chose to spend $270,000 at the Trump Hotel in D.C. 3 of the countries that lobbied our country, our federal government, in previous years used different, 2 out of the 3, used different places to stay, but chose this time around to choose the Trump Hotel in D.C. The really other important thing is, you know, for me, a big issue with T-Mobile and Sprint want to merge right now, and they are lobbying the federal government to do this merger. And T-Mobile and Sprint merging would hurt the American people, workers, but also, you know, making affordable cell phone services for many of my residents at home. And this, again, in the same breath that T-Mobile is lobbying the federal government and asking Trump to please get his administration to approve this, they spent $195,000 at the D.C. Trump Hotel. Again, direct conflict. He made $40 million in 2017 from profits. Much of the conflict of interest and things that you see, it's almost like the Trump organization and the Trump administration is very interchangeable. And everyone knows it's almost like this unsaid word out there that you want something, stay at the D.C. Trump Hotel. And look, you know, for many folks that don't understand this, understand that every president before had to do this. think about this. This is not going to be the last CEO that runs for president of the United States. If we allow this to go and to not hold him accountable, at least to investigate, and that's what my resolution does, then you're setting a precedent that it's okay, because that's what happened when we didn't hold a president accountable when they went to war without going through Congress. And now every president has done it after that.
That's so important. Thaís, in the grassroots, what do you feel and hear people talking about when it comes to impeachment? Where are people on this?
I think that the overwhelming majority of the American public believes that Trump is unfit to be president. I think that the majority of people have been really, really tired over the last 2 years. It's been a tiring 2 years. Every day there's something new. It's another way that our communities are being threatened, whether it's Trump's unconstitutional power grab by declaring a national emergency to build a wall, or banning an entire religion from our country, illegally detaining children at our border, tear gassing migrant refugees. It's pretty clear to the people, the American people, that Trump should not be in office and does not represent what our country believes itself to be. Trump is fundamentally undoing our democracy by its very seams. And every day that he's in office is a day that our communities are threatened. It's another day that my people are being deported, that people are really suffering, you know? And when I hear people like House Speaker Nancy Pelosi say that he's just not worth impeachment, what I hear is that I'm not worth it, that we're not worth it, that my community isn't worth fighting for. As an undocumented person, it's been extremely difficult to be both a public activist who's out as undocumented, and feeling the fear of, is ICE going to detain me tomorrow because I went to a rally? When I see little kids get detained, I see myself when I was a little kid. I question if my parents had decided to immigrate here under the Trump administration, that kid would probably be me. And so there's just so much suffering. And I really feel that the Democratic leadership isn't seeing that the American people are suffering, that our democracy is under threat, our communities are under threat, and they're so disconnected that they're not willing to follow the will of the American people. And this narrative that people don't believe in impeachment, it's really coming because our Democratic leadership, in particular, with the exception, of course, of Representative Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, who are taking such bold moral leadership in this moment, they're just not listening to us.
Yeah, and I know Representative Al Green is a supporter of the resolution, but just for folks that are listening to kind of open the curtain of what you just heard, understand, right now an investigation would actually find that two of the for-profit companies that benefit from detention at the border gave a significant amount of money to the inauguration committee for President Trump.
Right.
And again, opening up that curtain, understanding how is that interconnected? Are these two companies continually making profit off of the decisions made by the Trump administration, and how, again, if there's been any conflict of interest, whether or not these decisions are being made for profit or made in the best interest of the American people.
So what you're looking into is ensuring that in our country, a person who wants to be president doesn't become president to become rich. That's why this anti-corruption clause was put in there. And that's rare. It's a rare thing to actually to divide that power from the ability to accumulate resources. And we made, as a country, this amazing thing where we said, no, if you're in this office, you actually work for the people. So much so that it has to be absolutely clear that there's not even an appearance of corruption. Right. And your resolution is really looking at that and saying, I'm following exactly what the system is set up to do. So just wondering, some Democratic colleagues are saying, we've got a process, we're investigating here and there. Why is your resolution important as a complementary aspect of that?
Yeah, and I want folks to know, I work with my colleagues. None of them, not one person has said, don't do it. Is everybody jumping on board and saying, let's move now? No, but I think every single one of my colleagues believes in a transparent process. Every single one believes in the committee process. That's why the Judiciary Committee already submitted like 81 requests to the Trump administration. What I'm saying is, let it fall under this resolution. Let's not just say, send in the 81 requests, but let's say we want to look specifically for direct violation of the Constitution, direct offenses that we think are impeachable. And I think, if anything, if we were living in a normal world right now, or in our country right now, any sitting president might say, oh, maybe I should comply. That would be ideal. Or at least put notice on any president coming forward that the Congress is going to take this stuff very seriously, and we're going to hold you accountable. Again, my worry is this will not be the last CEO that runs for president. And if we allow this to become a norm, that this is okay, then yes, we are going to have people that really buy their way into our democratic process, that we make decisions not in the best interest in making sure people feel safe in our country, but it's going to become for profit. Look, if I was him, he knows this is a temporary gig. He knows he's not going to be there forever. So if he hasn't divested, then he knows that's his ultimate goal, is at the end, it's for his businesses. And again, he's made record profit. I mean, $40 million alone in 2017, while he's been working through the Oval Office. Mm-hmm. He is still a sitting CEO, and that is dangerous and a direct, again, corrupting our democratic process. Our democracy is at line, and I think people need to understand that direct connection. Put his character flaws aside. Understand it's these actions, specific actions. If we really focus on it, and the resolution will do that, instead of focusing on so many other elements, let's focus on those specific violations to the United States Constitution.
So let's get into a couple. We've talked about one, an anti-corruption clause, the pay to play. Yeah. But we just saw this Mueller report come out, but Donald Trump
didn't really come out yet.
Well, you haven't read it, right?
No.
But everyone seems to talk about it.
We spent $25 million on it. Spent, I think, 3 years on it. I would like this congressional body to be able to see the full report, yes.
But I mean, his hand-picked attorney general, who has already come and said, my job is to protect the president, he read it, and he promises people that it is actually all fine. Trump's fine.
Look, I know, Republican or Democrat, Americans are watching this and saying, no, that's not right. I mean, they know common sense that this report needs to be made public. I think they are, no matter, again, their party affiliation, no matter your income, every single American person wants to see this report become public. But I want you to know, what I'm talking about is post-inauguration. Mm-hmm. Most of what Mueller was looking at and investigating was prior to him taking oath of office. Yes, much of it might have seeped in. Into after he became president of the United States, after he took the oath to uphold the United States Constitution. But so much of what I'm saying is, I think, as critical, if not more important, is that after he took the oath of office, what has he done to create a very corrupted, again, process of decisions that are being made, and again, hurting the American people.
And literally your job in Congress is as a check and balance on the executive.
My team hates when I say this, but I call it law and order. Like, there was the first part of it is the investigation. Mm-hmm. The second part of the show is always, and that's our job, is that oversight. Is give it to us so we can decide. It's not the job of Mueller to indict. It's not the job of Mueller to make those decisions. His job was done. He investigated, and for us to get a 3-page, I mean, people say 4-page, little letter from, the Attorney General Barr, to me is unjust, unfair. We want a transparent process. We should all be engaged. $25 million in 3 years, and you're just going to give us a 3-page summary saying, hey, he's okay? Well, he appointed you. You work for him. And we're telling people, like, we have to put our country first. Before any party, before any person, our country has to come first. And that means making that report very public, full report to the American people.
And Thaís, out in the grassroots, again, I think there's just this overwhelming agreement that it has to be made public, that you can't have this report and then, not release it. Are you hearing that
Yeah, there's so much grassroots support towards like the hashtag, hashtag release the report. It's like such a big thing. People have been waiting for this to drop like forever, it feels like. And people are really upset that it's not public. I mean, the American people have been waiting for this. They want this. They want to know what's happening. But even regardless of the Mueller report and what the Mueller report says, like Trump is not exonerated. And that's why we need every single member of Congress to back this resolution, because Congress can't outsource their constitutional right and power to actually investigate the Trump investigation. And I think that's what the people want to see ultimately. I feel like the Mueller report is really interesting and certainly important. But the people want Trump investigated. They want to hold this administration accountable for the harms it's created over the course of the last 2 years. And I think that this resolution is so energizing to the American people, because that's ultimately what we want. We want to hold Trump accountable. And the best way to do that is just open an investigation.
Mm-hmm. Congresswoman, there is a duty in sitting here in this building, in your seat. Can you talk about how this is fulfilling your duty as a member of Congress to the people you represent, how you see that?
Yeah, I can tell you, I mean, it's such a humbling experience being here. I believe in this institution. I'm a child of immigrants. I can tell you that I believe we're in a constitutional crisis, that we truly are, that if we don't do something now, if we remain silent, then the next person that becomes president will do even worse. And it will continue to, continue going down the slippery slope and setting again this precedent that, hey, you can become president and you don't have to divest, that you can have all these conflicts of interest. That I really believe no matter how much I'm going to push for healthcare, affordable healthcare, no matter how much I'm pushing, a lot of environmental justice bills and initiatives, that ultimately it has to go to this person's desk. And if he's directly conflicted, if he is not following the Constitution, then we all hurt, and it's a failure for all of us. And we need to be able to understand that connection and why that's important.
So right now what we're looking at is this obscene levels of inequality. You're seeing wealth concentrated in so few hands that you have, 3 families have as much wealth as the bottom 50% of Americans. The danger in a pay-to-play system is that we can never break out of that. We could never reverse this upwards redistribution of wealth, because the power will be held by the wealthiest, and it will continue down that path. Everything I'm hearing is about how you're playing this role, speaking for the people and the duty that this office brings. Can you talk about what the people can do? Because I have this fundamental belief, and it's proven every time, that the only thing that can beat money power is people power.
Absolutely.
But it will win every single time. So can you tell people at home who are listening, yes, what can we do? What can we do to raise our voices together, to empower what you're doing here?
I think for people at home to know, change doesn't really come in the halls of Congress. It doesn't come within the walls of the White House. It always came out in the streets, in the communities. It was the American people that was able to, pass civil rights, the historic Civil Rights Act, pass Clean Air Act. It was the people at home that made us do it. So I'm asking people, if you believe in accountability, you believe that no one is above the law, including the President of the United States, if you believe in our democracy, then you need to call upon us, every single one in this chamber, to hold this president accountable and to have a transparent process by supporting a resolution to investigate into these offenses. That's what you can do. I've seen it over and over again. Every time I think we're never going to be be able to get there because so many people have so much money and access to these corridors of power, it has always been proven over and over again that we actually have much more power and our advocacy and our movement, and again, this incredible movement work that happens outside of these walls. So be courageous and push forward and call your members of Congress, engage them on these important issues. Some of them are actually waiting for you to call them. They would be pleased to support a resolution like this, but they need to hear from you first.
So Thaís, listening to that and being an organizer at CREDO, can you talk about ways that you and your organization are empowering people to raise their voices and being part of that?
Yes, so we are so lucky to be working with partners like By the People and Free Speech for People. And all of us really believe that we need a movement in order to impeach Trump. We need every single member of Congress to commit to open investigation to back this resolution. So we need people to drive calls to their members of Congress. And at CREDO Action, our role is really that we want to hold Democratic leadership accountable to the American people. And so we want Nancy Pelosi, we want Jerry Nadler to really step up in this moment. They can personally believe in impeachment, but we need them to publicly do so as well. So if you're sitting at home right now and you really are ready to make calls to your representative and you're ready to show up to your representative's office, text impeach to 25946. Again, that's impeach to 25946. When you text us, we will send you alerts to your phone for ways that you can take action with us, whether you could just take 2 minutes of your day to call your representative and ask them to support Representative Rashida Tlaib's resolution, or if you're so willing to go to your offices, there's tons of ways that you can plug in, and we're really excited. We will not be able to win without each and every one of you publicly saying to your representatives that now is the time to impeach Trump.
Thaís Marques from CREDO Action, thank you so much. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, Michigan's 13th District, you're here representing the people. Again, all of what we do is based on this belief that the people united can never be defeated.
Sure.
You just heard a direct call to action to get behind. Can you just close us out with, have you seen that happen? Have you seen the power of the people when we have overcome, this money power? When Trump was attacking our healthcare the first time around, now he's doing it again.
Sure.
They're hitting us from so many angles that it can really feel bleak and lonely. Can you speak about the energizing power of getting organized?
For people to know, this is the largest incoming class since Watergate, the most diverse class. But many of us didn't run to be first. We ran because we serve differently. We talk about these issues differently. Some of us are personally impacted by not passing gun reform bills. I have colleagues that have pre-existing conditions. Some of my colleagues never even had health insurance until they came here, until they became members of Congress. Some had never held public office before. They are different in so many ways. And that means, to me, more access to you, more access and connection to what's happening in our communities. And so know that there is a light in this time of darkness right now in our country. And it's with the opportunity that you all have and really engaging this incredible new Congress. And so many folks need to know. People want to hear from you. They want you to understand how you engaging them gives them more fuel and gives them more courage to speak up and not be silent. But they need to hear from you. And I think there's so many of us that assume that, oh, they must already know. No, they need your partnership and they need you to engage in so many ways. And again, you can do it in such a thoughtful, incredible way where many of my colleagues ran on such incredible issues that they can understand the connection of why we need to hold this president accountable and have these hearings, have this transparent process. Be hopeful that, coming into a chamber where majority of my colleagues are millionaires, they're completely disconnected with the American people. Many of us new members, we're ordinary folks. We really are. And we see what you see. But we kind of wait for you to say, you have the green light. we want you to support something like this. We want you to support a transparent process because everyone deserves a democracy that works for all of us, not just some of us.
Representative Rashida Tlaib, obviously you said it better than any of us could. Thank you so much for joining us here on CREDO Live. I'm Alex Lawson with We Act Radio, and it's my honor to host this CREDO Live. I always say that the most radical act you can take is to get organized. We're literally sitting in Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's office, which proves that people power wins every single time. One of our voices alone is quiet, but when we raise our voices together, we can elect champions to Congress, we can empower our champions to take the fight to the Trump administration, to Wall Street, to money power, and most importantly, win. So thank you so much for joining us on CREDO Live, and we'll be back.